Yo, Strong Opinion Sports has a store. Shirts, hoodies, everything. It's all on sale until the end of November. Go buy stuff. On Thursday, I guess Thanksgiving, the Texans beat the Lions 41-25. And my number one takeaway from this game really is that I think most people have no idea just how good Deshaun Watson's playing right now. His team is 4-7, so I think a lot of people forget, oh yeah, Deshaun Watson is incredible, playing at a high level. It's easy to forget about him. But man, Deshaun is a special quarterback. And, he had 4 touchdowns against the Lions, had a lot of great throws, and he's doing so many things at a high level right now with great anticipation or playing well in a messy pocket with bodies around him and around his feet, moving defenders with his eyes, moving them right, throwing left, or, he's been highly accurate, especially down the sidelines. He's got a throw against the Patriots from 2 weeks ago. I put it on my Instagram story last night. I went, oh my gosh, that's just an incredibly unbelievable throw. And I've said this before, but I do think it's worth repeating, so I'll say it again. One of the most impressive things that Deshaun Watson is doing this year is that he's not adding to his team's problems with his play. Houston is a gigantic mess right now all around Deshaun Watson. They got, they can't run the ball. Their defense is giving up a ton of yards. Their receivers are dropping passes. They traded away their best receiver, DeAndre Hopkins. They fired their head coach. They're using a interim head coach. They have got offensive line problems. And while Houston is a mess all around him, Deshaun Watson has not added to their problems at all. And when you compare a guy like Carson Wentz in Philadelphia with Deshaun Watson, Carson Wentz is also in a really bad, messy situation. But as the Eagles have fallen apart, so too has Carson Wentz. His habits, his decision-making, it's declined. It's gotten worse and worse and worse. Now, in contrast, Deshaun Watson has done the impressive task of playing well and being disciplined in spite of the mess around him. It's really, really impressive to me. No one talks about how hard it is to make good decisions and not force throws and be patient and do the right thing and have good habits when your team is imploding around you. Deshaun Watson's done a great job at that. And look, Deshaun Watson, in my opinion, and he's an elite quarterback. I've been saying this for a long time. I've been on the Deshaun Watson train for a while. He's an elite quarterback. He's playing at the top level of the NFL, and he deserves a ton of credit because he's playing at a super high level, again, in spite of everything against him going wrong in Houston. Now, the Lions. Oh, boy. Boy, where do I start with the Lions? I walked away from Thanksgiving Day reminded once again just of how steadily mediocre the Detroit Lions are. It's kind of impressive, actually, how consistently mediocre they are. And why is that? Why is it that they are so mediocre in Detroit? And the reason why they've actually been so, mediocre is a high level in my opinion for Detroit because Matthew Stafford has been saving them from being awful for years and years and years. Matthew Stafford's the reason why they're mediocre and not terrible. You got to give credit to Matthew Stafford. They were 0-16 before they drafted Matthew Stafford. And they've been mediocre ever since. Yeah, and I'm using that word a lot. Take a drink every time I say it. I don't really care. But imagine if Detroit had not had Matthew Stafford. Take a minute, just think about the last couple of years, especially if you're a Detroit fan who follows them very closely. Imagine if they hadn't had Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford's career makes me very, very sad because it's just a bunch of, it's a shame. It's been wasted. It's a bunch of talent. Matthew Stafford's talent has been wasted in Detroit. And this is why I tell people, I say this all the time on Instagram DMs, on my Instagram story, on the show, in face-to-face conversations, all the time I tell people, you want to work for a good company, work for a company that's well-run. Because, man, honestly, and look, this is another thing you can learn from the NFL. In the NFL, you do not want to be a number 1 overall pick. You're set up for failure. You have to overcome the fact that you were a number 1 overall pick. People go, woo, number 1 overall pick. No, that road's very hard. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. I would rather, personally, go play for a good team. Have help. Have good teammates. Have a good coach. Wouldn't you want that? And Matthew Stafford, for most of his career, has not had any of those things. And being a number 1 overall pick, you so rarely have a good career. I already feel bad for Trevor Lawrence. He's going to probably go to the Jets. And God, it's a tough journey ahead for Trevor Lawrence after being drafted number 1 overall. Now, here's another thing. Matthew Stafford's only been to the playoffs 3 times in his entire career. And actually, I walk away from that going, he's been to the playoffs 3 times? That's kind of impressive. I mean, he really got them to the playoffs, not once, not twice, but 3 times. Now, they lost every single time, but it's still rather impressive in my opinion. Now, it is sad, too, that when he finally got a decent coach, in my opinion, Jim Caldwell, the Lions were in a hurry to fire him. I don't know why. I've never understood Jim Caldwell being fired from Detroit. But it was like they shot themselves. They got a good coach, and they fired him. They let him walk away. I'm like, what are you doing, Detroit? I've never understood Detroit. I mean, right as they were making progress, Jim Caldwell got canned because they didn't make the playoffs that year. What kind of stupid? Do you not realize who you are? You have no self-awareness to understand you're the Lions, and you should be grateful for any kind of good coach that comes your way. And it makes me think, all this stuff makes me think of Joe Burrow, where Matthew Stafford has kind of laid out the blueprint to how Joe Burrow's career is going to go, where he's likely going to have a massive underachievement in his career, where it's going to be a result of the bad organization around him. Massive underachievement because of all the problems around him. It sounds like Matthew Stafford, and it also sounds like the future for Joe Burrow. I don't like that, but that's the reality. It makes me very, very sad that anybody who has to work for bad ownership and for a poorly run organization, feel bad for them. Now, if you can control it, which some people have control, avoid it at all costs. Fight tooth and nail. Fight very, very hard to not work for a crappy organization, because crappy organizations give you crappy results most of the time. And look, no matter what, do you want a harder road? I would rather work for a good company with good co-workers and good people around me. And I've never understood people that say, well, isn't there something to being a hero and going to be number 1 overall pick? No, there's not. You're just making your life more difficult. I'd rather win, succeed, enjoy my life, have a good coach. I just, anything you can do to get ahead and make your life easier, do it. Because, oh my gosh, I just have never understood people that go work for bad companies or for bad teams or take a bad coaching job. Unless it's your only option, literally there's no other option, go find a better option. Go find a better team, a better organization, a better company, whatever it is. Do not work for a crappy organization. I've never understood it, and it makes very little sense to me. Now, again, to clarify, if you can avoid it. If you can avoid it, don't do it. Okay, also during this game, by the way, on Thanksgiving, J.J. Watt tipped a pass to himself. I guess really, he just grabbed the pass out of the air, got an interception, took it for a pick six. Makes me wonder watching J.J. Watt. Does J.J. Watt practice that? Does J.J. Watt, put a jugs machine up like 10 feet in the air, about the, 9, whatever it is, where the height of a quarterback's arm releasing the ball? Does he stand like 5 feet away from that same jugs machine and just jump and grab passes out of the air? Does he practice that? I wonder. Because J.J. Watt is so good at tipping the ball at the line of scrimmage or grabbing interceptions or tipping it to himself and catching an interception. I just walked away from that game going, man, J.J. Watt does that all the time. Is that something he practices? He must, right? Because he's so good at tipping balls and grabbing interceptions at the line of scrimmage.